On this one we're going to patch the ceiling and patch the plasterboard and skim it in flush. What's crack, guys? So on this one we're gonna patch up this ceiling here. I think there was a wasp nest of all things here, not a leak. It was a wasp nest. So I've got it all cut back here. I've stripped back a half inch or so of skim as well of plaster. Here's my plasterboard that I've cut. I think it was pretty easy. It was what, 8.5 by 15.5 or 17.5. So get your plasterboard, get everything cut out nice and neat. I've done a lot of preparation here that I haven't showed, but get the hole cut out nice and neat like I have. I've stripped back a wee layer of skim as well, so we can scrim tape right over the end. And I've cut back joist to joist here nice and tidy so that I can screw it in. Handy to have your screw gun and your drill up with you when you're up on ladders. Quite a high wee ceiling, this one. And I really overkill it with the screws here. I not only screw the new piece of plasterboard that I have cut it, but I screw the old plasterboard. And the reason for that is just to tighten everything up and make sure there's no bounce. The less vibration the better, always, for plastering. So you obviously don't want to have way too many screws in, or you could sort of almost damage the board as well. But definitely, even on a full board, if you have sort of 7 in each one, where this one I think I've got 4 in and a couple in the original plasterboard, making sure that it's also secured and repaired. And was still a couple of wasps in there, and I was being very careful, as apparently dead wasps can still sting you, as the venom's still in their stinger. But no idea really, just wasn't taking the risk. So here's it up close. And as I was talking about here, look, nice wee lip here to skim to. And this side, obviously the back here will be filled down. You'll not really see this gap, but I'll offer my scrim tape up to it anyway. And this should give us a real good flush finish, and that's the way I'm going to run my scrim tapes along. So it should be a pretty good job when we're all done. Using quite wide scrim tape as well, so wider the better. Should also help prevent any cracking. So that I have my skim, the plaster, cut off, I'm able to overlap from board to board, giving a real good seal. As you all know from previous patches I don't like to run the scrim tape over the original plaster, as I find that leaves a very, very bad edge. And when you're patching, it's all about the joints, it's all about the edges. The angle here, that's going to be your main concern when you're doing patches, is making it nice and flush. This one, luckily, my good skimming trowel reaches end to end, so keeping it level will be pretty easy off the original. So again, I'll just be concentrating on keeping everything clean and tidy. And you can see the way I'm offering my scrim up here and getting a good bond with it. And at the back here we're saying just offered it up and tried to fold it down that gap a wee bit as well, taking out anything flaky. There's no point plastering over anything loose, guys. You want everything to be as tight and solid as possible and dust free. Otherwise it won't bond very well and could crack. So always remember that when you're doing patches. Believe it or not as well, the original plasterboard here was brown side down. Now that can be a thing, guys, that back in the day you plastered the brown side and you dry lined the white side. So getting my plaster mixed up, only need a wee bit, so no need for the battery powered drills on this one. And the water brush here, something I like to do, guys, is just wet the edges before I actually apply the plaster. I find that helps control that bit of suction, and helps me clean them edges down later on as well. Stops the plaster drying in. Also, you might want to, I think I have run a wee bit of PVA around the plasterboard, just the old plasterboard now along the joint. So getting my skim on here, and you'll notice I'm getting it on pretty quickly. I didn't mix it just as stiff as it is now, and there's a reason for that. Let's use that shorter. But yeah, just getting it on nice and flush and even as possible, and trying to really press it into all them joints as well, guys. That's very important. Get it well worked up into the scrim tapes, and if you applied your scrim tapes nice and neat, you won't have any bubbling in them. I know a lot of you spreads are going to understand what I'm saying there. The scrim tape bubbling down on you, a bit of a nightmare. But if you do run the knife across it or something and poke it back up, get that done as early as possible, and that'll save you a bit of headache later on. So working off step ladders, as I am quite high here, and here's the reason my gear's tightening. I've got half time in the mix, as you know, it's only a patch, so I think it's okay to speed it up a tiny bit as well. There's no point me waiting about all day for it. So them things have been coming in quite well for smaller jobs, and the half-time bonding I think is absolutely brilliant. I haven't used the extra time at all. Obviously it's winter, so I'm not really trying to slow anything down. Things are slow enough. It's pretty cold. It's cold enough as it is. So not too in the need of slowing things down, more of speeding them up. So obviously just getting my first trowel on, working it in here with the brush and water as well, so it is tightening a bit quicker than usual. So if you do use an accelerant, guys, you have to be on the ball, get things cleaned and washed quicker, and get back onto the work that wee bit quicker as well, getting your work troweled in as neat as possible, as early as possible. So that's the name of the game. So basically with that trowel, I just washed my edges down as best as possible, got it troweled in nice and flat, no holes and no major bumps or anything, and again back up again for the second wet trowel. It's just roughly the same idea, just keeping a good eye on the edges, making sure that they're well worked in, nice and flush to the paint. I'll show that at the end how well it really comes in up close. Using my Refinest skimming trowel here, it's razor sharp, and hadn't actually used a Superflex on this, as this one, because it was going from end to end, it was able to finish it off nicely. And for such a small job, I just wanted to be able to take in a couple of bucketfuls of tools and straight back out again. Obviously I have dust sheets down underneath me as well. It's another important part of patching, guys, trying to keep the whole area clean, not just worrying about getting the patch done, but obviously keeping the work area clean and tidy for yourself, and when you're finished you'll have less clean up time. It means you'll get home quicker or on to the next job, just depends what you're doing that day. So it's coming in very well with the half time in it. And what I've noticed when using half time, I could be wrong, both in my plaster and in my bonding coats, that it seems to be making it quite hard as well, like almost like you need a wee bit more pressure in to cut it. I don't know if that's just me, or maybe it's just because it does pick up a bit quicker, that you feel you're cutting it quicker and earlier. But to me, I'll have to test it sometime and see if my theory is right there, that actually the half time is crystallizing and actually creating a harder plaster. I could be wrong, but it certainly doesn't feel like it's weakening the plaster whatsoever. It definitely feels like, if anything, it's adding strength. And again, I could be wrong. Anybody wants to correct me in the comments, I'm more than happy to be corrected. And like I say, it's just my theory. But yeah, still working off the ladders here. Obviously, if you're up high, just make sure you do try and keep one hand on the top of the ladder. But I'm not feeling too uncomfortable. And again, just really keeping them corners as clean as possible and working them in. And always clean your trowel after every single hit, guys. That's maybe my third trowel at this stage, and I'm still really paying attention to my tools. You can see the plaster's pretty hard at this stage, so you gotta make sure you clean your tools as you go. And just another quick wipe, making sure I'm nice and flush and tidy, no holes. The point of patching is to try and make it a most invisible joint as possible, so that when it's painted it's virtually impossible to see. I have done a few patches in my time and seen them painted. Obviously I have painted some of my own patches as well, my own house and stuff, so I do know I can do it pretty good. And there was one, in fact, the last ceiling I have a video of. I'll maybe hit that in the descriptions, but it has a patch in that ceiling already, and it was done the same method as the previous method, and there wasn't a hairline crack to be seen, and you wouldn't even have knew it was there, only I knew there was a patch there because I had done one. So it came in pretty well with these tactics, basically. So these techniques. So hopefully some of the things I'm saying here is helping some of you guys coming into the trade, and maybe even a couple of DIYers and stuff, or just other plasters and spreads, sharing our knowledge with each other and tips and tricks. And there's my one from my mate Paul. He loved to be sponge around the edge. Didn't always do that myself. I sometimes would have clothed it if it was very messy, but definitely makes for a sharper job, guys. Much tidier looking, bit more professional, and really does just leave it ready for paint if you don't leave any dusty marks around the walls or the ceilings when you're patching. So pretty happy with this one, and I'll try and get you a wee up close shot of it, see how well my joints came in and that. So obviously just gonna give it a wee quick polish here, not trying to shine it up too much, just wanting to make sure that it's nice and even and flush across. And again, just really overkilling them joints. I know I'm repeating myself quite a lot on that, but that's because it is important. I'll repeat something that's important. I really want to drive that fact home, that a patch is all about the edges, guys. It's not just about filling it in and walking away. It's really about smoothing in them edges and getting them flush. And obviously the moment of truth, up close and personal. So this is how flush we've got it here. So obviously paint will be the bigger telltale, but run your fingers across, guys. If you can't feel anything, any ups or downs, you've got it, and that's the whole idea. You obviously might have some wee bits just over the edges slightly, and wouldn't be terribly concerned because you're probably still filling in bits and pieces of paint. So I appreciate just getting to the end here, and another quick hand test, and I hope you are able to watch some more videos and enjoy those too.